Hey guys, tonight we begin with Tonight we begin with Rome, ancient Rome, the empire Ledro to break you. You're standing outside in the middle of a medieval winter night. The air bites at your skin instantly, sharp and dry, like it has teeth. Your breath turns visible, drifting away in soft white clouds that disappear almost as quickly as they form. There's no cozy jacket, no insulated walls waiting for you inside, and if you're being honest, you probably wouldn't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as always, let me know your location and local time down in the comments. It's always fascinating to see where everyone is listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You don't rush inside, because rushing doesn't help much here. The cold has already settled into your bones. A mainstream historical fact is that medieval winters, especially during periods like the Little Ice Age, were significantly harsher than what many parts of the world experience today. Temperatures dropped lower, seasons stretched longer, and communities had far fewer resources to protect themselves. You feel that immediately. The ground beneath your feet is stiff, almost unyielding. Frost clings to everything wood, dirt, even the edges of your clothing. You pull your arms closer to your body, instinctively trying to trap what little warmth you have left. There's no street light, no distant glow of electricity, only darkness and the faint outline of a small structure ahead. Your shelter, if you can call it that. You move toward it slowly, your steps careful, not because the ground is dangerous, but because your body is already conserving energy. Every movement feels deliberate. Every breath matters. A quirky historical tidbit is that in some medieval regions, people believed extreme cold could carry illness through the air itself, so they would wrap their faces or avoid night exposure, thinking the cold air was directly harmful, not just uncomfortable. You can understand why they thought that, because this doesn't feel natural, it feels hostile. You reach the door and push it open. The inside doesn't greet you with warmth, it greets you with less cold, which, in this world, is the closest thing to comfort. You step inside and close the door behind you, shutting out the wind. The silence inside is different. Heavier, still, but not warm, not even close. Historians still argue whether people in medieval Europe truly adapted physically to these colder conditions, or simply endured them with no real improvement in comfort. Standing here now, you suspect it's the second, because nothing about this feels adaptable. It feels survivable. Barely. You take a slow breath, your body trying to stabilize, trying to hold on to whatever warmth remains. Your hands feel stiff, your fingers less responsive than they should be. You rub them together gently, not for comfort, but for function. Because losing feeling means losing control. You glance around the space. It's small, basic. Everything inside feels temporary, even though it's meant to last. The walls don't look strong enough to fight the cold. The air doesn't feel contained. It feels like the outside has simply followed you in, just quieter. You shift your weight slightly, trying to find a position that feels less exposed. Your body is constantly adjusting now, searching for small advantages. A corner, a barrier, anything. You move closer to the inner wall, instinctively choosing the spot that might block even a fraction of the cold air creeping in. It doesn't make much difference. But here, small differences matter. You take another breath, slower this time. Your body begins to accept the environment, not because it's comfortable, but because it has no choice. And that's when you realize something quietly. This isn't about staying warm. It's about not getting colder. There's a difference, a big one. Because warmth is rare. But survival, that's the goal. You settle slightly, your body conserving energy, your movements becoming minimal. Even standing still feels like an effort now, as your muscles tighten slightly to maintain heat. You don't speak. There's no reason to. Your focus is internal, on your breathing, on your posture, on the quiet battle happening beneath your skin. And as the cold continues to press in from every direction, slow and patient, you understand something clearly. This night hasn't even truly begun yet, and already it feels like too much. You stay where you are for a moment, letting your body settle into this slightly less hostile space. But the longer you stand still, the clearer something becomes. This place isn't protecting you, it's only delaying the cold. You glance around again, your eyes adjusting to the dim interior. The walls look solid at first wood, maybe packed with mud or straw, but as you focus, you begin to notice the gaps. Thin lines where air slips through, tiny openings that don't look like much, but you can feel them. A faint draft brushes against your face, cold, constant. A mainstream historical fact is that most medieval homes, especially for peasants, were poorly insulated. Walls were often made from wattle and dauber mix of wooden frames filled with mud and straw, which did little to stop cold air from entering. You feel that failure of design now, not dramatically, but persistently. The cold doesn't rush in, it seeps. Slowly, steadily, patiently. A quirky historical tidbit is that some people tried to block these drafts by stuffing cloth, straw, or even animal dung into cracks in the walls to keep the cold out. You can imagine doing that, because right now anything sounds reasonable. You step closer to one of the walls, your hand hovering near a visible crack. You don't even need to touch it to feel the chill slipping through. It brushes against your skin like a quiet reminder. This place can't keep you warm. It can only keep you slightly less exposed. Historians still argue whether medieval builders fully understood insulation techniques, or if limitations in materials and resources made proper heat retention nearly impossible. Standing here, you don't think it matters, because the result is the same. You shift your stance again, moving toward the center of the room, as if distance from the walls might help. It doesn't. The cold is everywhere. Even the floor beneath your feet feels like it's pulling warmth out of you. Hard, unforgiving. You subtly adjust your footing, trying to reduce contact, but there's nowhere else to go. No soft surface. No barrier. Just you and the environment. You pull your arms tighter around yourself again, your shoulders rising slightly, not consciously. Your body is doing it for you, trying to protect vital heat. You take a slow breath in, and the air feels colder inside your chest than outside. That's when you notice something else. The ceiling. Low. Dark. And not sealed tightly either. Another place where warmth escapes. Or rather, where it never really stays. You exhale slowly, watching your breath form again, even indoors. That tells you everything. If you can see your breath, you're not warm. You move a few steps, testing different spots, almost instinctively searching for a warmer pocket of air. There isn't one. Every corner feels the same. Slight variations, maybe, but nothing meaningful. And that's the problem. There's no safe spot here. No place where your body can truly relax. You stop moving. Because movement uses energy, and energy means heat. You're learning quickly. Without anyone teaching you, you stand still again, your breathing controlled, your posture tight but efficient. A quiet adaptation. You begin to understand something subtle. The house isn't a shield, it's a compromise. A thin boundary between you and something worse. Outside is brutal. Inside is survivable. Barely. You tilt your head slightly, listening. The wind outside hasn't stopped. You can hear it brushing against the walls, slipping through the weak points, testing every surface. And it always finds a way in. It always does. You close your eyes for a moment, not to rest, but to focus, to feel, to understand what your body needs now. Less movement, less exposure, more control. You adjust your stance one final time, settling into a position that feels sustainable. Not comfortable, just manageable. And as you stand there, surrounded by walls that fail to truly protect you, with cold air slowly wrapping around your body from every direction, you realize something clearly. This house isn't keeping you warm, it's simply helping you survive the cold a little longer. You lower yourself slowly, careful with every movement, because even bending your body feels like it costs something now. The surface beneath you doesn't welcome you. It resists, rough, uneven, and already cold. You shift slightly, trying to find a position that doesn't immediately make you tense again, but there isn't one. There's only less uncomfortable. A mainstream historical fact is that most medieval people slept on straw-filled mattresses, often called palliasses, which were placed directly on wooden frames or even on the ground. You feel that reality instantly. The straw beneath you is thin, uneven, and slightly damp in places. It doesn't cushion your body. It simply separates you from the harder surface below, and even that separation feels temporary. Cold seeps through it, slowly, relentlessly. A quirky historical tidbit is that straw bedding was rarely replaced, which meant it often collected dust, dirt, and sometimes insects over time. You shift again, your shoulder pressing into a different spot, hoping for something softer. There isn't, only variation. You pull your legs slightly closer to your body, curling inward without fully realizing it. Your body is trying to conserve heat, reducing exposure. It's instinct now, not thought. Historians still argue whether medieval people were able to achieve restful sleep in such conditions, or if discomfort and environmental stress made deep sleep rare. You already know the answer, because your body doesn't relax. It stays alert. Even as you lie still, you take a slow breath in, then out, watching it form again in the dim air. The cold hasn't eased. If anything, it feels sharper now that you're no longer moving. Movement created heat. Stillness preserves it, but doesn't build it. You adjust your arm, tucking it closer to your chest. Your fingers feel stiff, less responsive. You rub them lightly against your sleeve, trying to bring back sensation. Not comfort, just control. You shift your head slightly, resting it against what little support you have. It doesn't feel stable. It doesn't feel soft. But it's enough. It has to be. You close your eyes, not because you're ready to sleep, but because there's nothing else to do. The darkness deepens behind your eyelids, but the awareness doesn't fade. Your body remains alert, responding to every small sensation. A faint draft across your face, a slight movement of air near your neck, the pressure of the straw beneath you. Everything is noticeable, because nothing is comfortable enough to ignore. You try to settle your breathing, slow it down, make it steady. In, out, in, out, in. Your body begins to soften slightly, not fully, but enough to release some tension. For a moment, just a moment, it feels like you might drift. But then, a shift, a small discomfort, a point of pressure that wasn't there before. You adjust again, carefully, because every movement risks losing the small amount of warmth you've managed to hold. You find another position. Wait, let your body respond. It doesn't improve much, but it doesn't get worse either. And here, that counts. You realize something quietly. Sleep here isn't about comfort. It's about endurance. You're not trying to rest fully. You're trying to last the night. You pull your covering, whatever thin layer you have, slightly tighter around your body. It doesn't block the cold completely, but it softens it just a little. A small barrier, a small defense. You take another breath, deeper this time, your chest rising slowly. Your body begins to accept the conditions, not because they're good, but because resisting them uses energy you don't have. And slowly, very slowly, you begin to drift. Not into deep sleep, but into something lighter, more fragile, more aware. Your body remains ready, even as your mind softens, and as you lie there, curled against the cold, surrounded by rough straw and thin air, trying to hold on to the smallest pocket of warmth, you understand something clearly. This isn't rest. This is survival, pretending to be sleep. You don't stay still for long, because eventually, the cold wins. Not all at once, not dramatically, just a slow, steady realization that lying there isn't enough. Your body needs something more than stillness. It needs heat. And in this world, there's only one real source of it. Fire. You open your eyes again, the dim space around you unchanged, but your awareness sharper now. You push yourself up slowly, your muscles stiff from the cold surface beneath you. Every movement feels heavier than it should, but necessary. A mainstream historical fact is that in most medieval homes, a central hearth or small fire was the primary and often only source of heat. There were no radiators, no sealed chimneys in many poorer homes, just open flames and whatever warmth they could produce. You move toward it, carefully, because fire is both comfort and danger. The faint glow is already there, weak but present. You kneel beside it, extending your hands slowly, palms facing the heat. The warmth touches your skin gently at first, then more clearly. It feels almost unreal. After so much cold, even a small amount of heat feels intense. A quirky historical tidbit is that many medieval homes didn't have proper chimneys. so smoke from the fire would fill the room before slowly escaping through gaps in the roof. You notice that now. The air isn't clean. There's a faint heaviness to it. A thin layer of smoke that lingers, making each breath feel slightly thicker. But you don't move away, because warmth matters more. Historians still argue whether long-term exposure to indoor smoke significantly affected health in medieval households, or if people simply adapted to it over time. Right now, adaptation doesn't feel like a choice. You bring your hands closer, feeling the heat soak into your skin. The stiffness begins to ease slightly. Your fingers respond more quickly now, less rigid, more alive. You rotate them slowly, letting the warmth reach every part. This is relief, not complete, but real. You lean forward just a little more, your body instinctively trying to absorb as much heat as possible. But you stop yourself. Too close, and it burns. Too far, and it fades. It's a balance. Everything here is. You sit there quietly, watching the small movements of the flame. It flickers unpredictably, rising and falling, responding to air you can't see. You realize something important. This fire isn't constant. It needs attention, fuel, care. Without it, the cold returns fully. You glance around briefly, noticing the limited resources. Wood isn't endless. Every piece matters. Every addition to the fire has to be considered. You can't just keep it blazing all might. You have to manage it. A controlled warmth. Not excess. You reach for a small piece and place it carefully onto the fire. The flame reacts slowly, then grows slightly stronger. The light shifts, casting faint shadows along the walls. For a moment, the space feels different, warmer, more alive. You exhale slowly, your body responding to the change. Your shoulders drop slightly. Your breathing deepens. This is the closest thing to comfort you felt. But it comes with a cost. You stay aware, because fire demands respect. Too much, and it becomes dangerous. Too little, and it disappears. You sit there balanced between those two risks, absorbing what you can, conserving what you must. Your body begins to recover slightly. Not fully, but enough to function better, enough to continue. You hold your hands there a little longer, then slowly pull them back, letting your body adjust to the reduced heat again. Because you can't stay here forever. You have to share the warmth, with the space, with the night. You shift slightly, positioning yourself at a distance where the heat still reaches you but doesn't consume resources too quickly. Another balance, another quiet decision. And as you sit there watching the fragile flame fight against the cold pressing in from every side, you understand something clearly. Fire isn't comfort, it's survival. And without it, this night wouldn't just be difficult, it would be impossible. You don't move far from the fire. Not yet, because even as the warmth begins to fade from your hands, your body reminds you how quickly the cold returns. It creeps back in, subtle but certain, settling again into your fingers, your arms, your shoulders. So you adjust. Not your position this time, but what you're wearing. A mainstream historical fact is that medieval people relied heavily on layered clothing to survive the cold, often wearing multiple tunics, cloaks, and undergarments made from wool, linen, or whatever materials they could afford. You feel that now as you pull your outer layer tighter around you. It's heavy, rough, not soft like anything modern, but it traps something. Not warmth exactly, but the absence of cold. A small difference, but important. A quirky historical tidbit is that wool was one of the most valued materials in medieval Europe, not because it was comfortable, but because it retained heat, even when damp. You shift slightly, feeling the weight of the fabric against your shoulders. It doesn't move easily. It resists. Every adjustment takes effort, but once it settles, it stays. You wrap it close around your chest, pulling it inward, closing any small openings where air might slip through. Because gaps matter, even tiny ones. Historians still argue whether layering was truly effective in extreme medieval winters, or if it simply slowed the inevitable loss of body heat. You can feel the answer. It doesn't stop the cold, but it delays it. And here, delay is survival. You tuck your arms in tighter, your hands slipping beneath the folds of fabric, pressing them against your body. You can feel a faint warmth there, what little your body is producing, now being held instead of lost. That's the goal, not gaining heat, keeping it. You shift your legs slightly, adjusting the lower layers, making sure they cover as much as possible. The fabric is stiff in places, worn in others, but it still functions. Barely. You notice how your movement has changed. Slower, more deliberate, because every time you open your clothing, even slightly, you feel it. Cold air rushing in, taking what little warmth you've built, so you move carefully. Minimizing exposure, maximizing retention. You settle again, your posture slightly hunched, your body naturally closing in on itself. It's not comfortable, but it's efficient. You take a slow breath, feeling the fabric rise and fall with your chest. It feels restrictive, heavy, but necessary. Everything here is necessary. You glance briefly at your hands again, now partially hidden within your sleeves. They feel better than before, not warm, but less cold. That's progress. You rub them lightly together beneath the fabric, creating a small amount of friction, a small amount of heat. It's not much, but it adds up. A quiet effort. You pull your cloak, if you can call it that, tighter once more, wrapping it around your shoulders like a shield. It doesn't block everything, but it gives you control, and control matters. You lean slightly forward, keeping your body compact, your core protected. Your breathing remains steady, your movements minimal. Because you've learned something now. Survival here isn't about fighting the cold, it's about managing it, reducing its impact, slowing its progress. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, but to feel. To nitrous, hey guys, body responds. The slight warmth building in your chest, the reduced sting on your arms, the subtle difference in your breathing. It's working, not perfectly, but enough. You exhale slowly, your breath still visible in the air, but softer now, less sharp. And as you sit there, wrapped in heavy, imperfect layers, holding onto the smallest amount of warmth your body can produce, you understand something clearly. Clothing here isn't comfort, it's armor, against a cold that never stops trying to reach you. You stay close to the fire, wrapped tightly in your layers, doing everything you can to hold onto the warmth you've managed to build. But even that isn't always enough, because there's another source of heat in this world, one that feels strange at first, uncomfortable, but necessary. You hear it before you fully notice it, a soft movement, a shift, a low, steady presence somewhere nearby. You turn your head slightly, your eyes adjusting to the dim light, and there they are, animals, not outside, inside. A mainstream historical fact is that in many medieval homes, especially among poorer households, animals like cows, chickens, and even goats were kept indoors during winter to provide additional warmth and protection. You feel the difference immediately. The air here is different. Not warmer exactly, but less cold. Their bodies generate heat, slowly, constantly. A quirky historical tidbit is that some families intentionally built their homes to share space with livestock, allowing animal body heat to rise and warm the living area. You can understand why. Because right now, any heat matters. You shift slightly, adjusting your position, not too close, but close enough to feel it. There's a faint warmth in the air around them, subtle, but real. Historians still argue whether this practice was primarily for warmth or convenience, since keeping animals indoors also protected them from theft and harsh weather. Standing here now, it feels like survival. You sit carefully, positioning yourself where the fire's fading heat and the animal's presence overlap. A small pocket of relative comfort. Not clean, not pleasant, but effective. You notice the smell. It's there, strong, earthy, unavoidable, but your focus isn't on that, it's on warmth. Because your body doesn't care about comfort anymore, it cares about function. You pull your cloak tighter again, your posture still compact, your movements minimal. The animals shift slightly, their breathing slow and steady. You begin to notice the rhythm. It's calming, not because it's peaceful, but because it's consistent. You match your breathing to it unconsciously. In, out, slow, steady. Your body begins to settle again, adjusting to this shared space. You feel a faint warmth reach your legs, your side, your back. Small, but noticeable. You close your eyes briefly, letting that warmth sink in, letting your body absorb what it can. Because it won't last forever. Nothing here does. You shift slightly again, careful not to disturb too much. Movement still costs energy, and energy still means heat. Everything is connected. You realize something quietly. Warmth here isn't something you create alone. It's shared. Between fire, between bodies, between anything that produces even the smallest amount of heat. You open your eyes again, glancing toward the fire. It's weaker now. The flame smaller, the glow dimmer. You don't rush to fix it. Not yet. Because you found another balance, another source, another way to last. You adjust your position once more, settling into a spot that feels sustainable. Not ideal, but enough. And as you sit there, surrounded by quiet breathing, faint warmth, and the steady presence of life sharing the same cold space, you understand something clearly. Survival here isn't clean. It isn't comfortable. It isn't even personal. It's shared, messy, and necessary. You stay where you are, wrapped in layers, close to the faint warmth of both fire and living bodies. For a moment, it almost feels stable, but then something else begins to surface. Not the cold this time. Hunger. It doesn't hit suddenly. It builds, slowly, quietly, until it becomes impossible to ignore. A mainstream historical fact is that during medieval winters, food scarcity was a serious issue, especially for peasants. Harvests were already finished, and whatever was stored had to last until spring often, with very little variety or quantity. You feel that reality now. Your body isn't just trying to stay warm, it's trying to function. And that takes energy. Energy you're not fully replacing. A quirky historical tidbit is that many medieval families relied heavily on preserved foods. In winter, like salted meat, dried grains, and root vegetables stored in cellars. You think about that as you shift slightly, your stomach tightening just a little. Not pain, but emptiness. You don't reach for food immediately, because there isn't always something to reach for, and even when there is, you don't take more than necessary. Historians still argue whether medieval diets in winter were nutritionally sufficient, or if people regularly endured mild starvation during colder months. Right now, it feels like the second. You take a slow breath, your body trying to stay calm, to conserve what little energy it has. Hunger isn't something you fix quickly here, it's something you manage. Like the cold, you adjust your position again, leaning slightly forward, your arms still tucked close to your body. Your breathing remains steady, controlled. Because losing control means losing energy. You glance briefly at the small space around you, noticing what little is available. Maybe a container, maybe something stored, but nothing abundant, nothing comforting. Just enough, always just enough. You understand something quietly. Food here isn't about satisfaction, it's about survival. You take another breath, deeper this time, trying to settle the feeling. Your body adapts again, slowing slightly, conserving what it can. Less movement, less demand, more efficiency. You've already learned this pattern. Cold takes energy, movement takes energy, and now, hunger reminds you how limited that energy really is. You close your eyes for a moment, not to rest, but to steady yourself. In, out, slow, controlled. The feeling doesn't disappear, but it softens, just enough. You open your eyes again, your awareness sharp but calm. You're still here, still functioning, still enduring, and that's what matters. You adjust your cloak once more, pulling it tighter, your posture still compact, your body still conserving. Because everything you do now is about lasting longer. You shift slightly, feeling the faint warmth around you again, letting it balance the internal cold that hunger brings. Because hunger has its own kind of cold, a different one, quieter, but just as real. And as you sit there, managing both the cold around you and the emptiness within you, holding everything together with careful control, you understand something clearly. Winter here isn't just about freezing, it's about running out. Slowly, in every way that matters. You stay still for a while, letting your body adjust to the quiet balance between cold and hunger. And then, you notice something else. Time, or rather, how slow it feels. You glance toward the small opening where faint light might once have entered, but now there's nothing, just darkness, thick and constant. A mainstream historical fact is that during medieval winters, nights were significantly longer, sometimes stretching up to 14 to 16 hours, depending on the region. Without artificial lighting, people were bound to the rhythm of daylight. You feel that length now, not as hours, but as weight. The night doesn't move quickly. It lingers. A quirky historical tidbit is that many people in medieval times followed a pattern known as segmented sleep. They would sleep for a few hours, wake up in the middle of the night, and then return to sleep again. You can understand why. Because continuous rest here feels unlikely. You shift slightly, your body adjusting against the rough surface, your layers still wrapped tightly around you. The fire has dimmed further now, its glow faint, barely pushing back the darkness. You consider adding more to it, but you hesitate. Resources matter. Everything is measured. Historians still argue whether long winter nights affected mental health in medieval populations, or if people simply adapted to the extended darkness over generations. Sitting here now, you feel the strain. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, just steady, the kind that builds quietly. You listen. There's not much to hear. The occasional shift, a soft movement, breathing. Yours, theirs. The night doesn't offer distraction. It offers silence, and silence stretches time. You take a slow breath, your mind drifting slightly, not into sleep, but into a softer awareness. Your thoughts slow down, matching the pace of the environment, because there's nothing pushing you forward. No urgency, no change, just continuation. You close your eyes again, letting the darkness behind them blend with the darkness around you. It's the same. There's no difference. You try to rest, and for a moment it almost works, but then your body reminds you again. A shift in position, a point of discomfort, a slight chill creeping back in. You adjust, carefully, minimally, because even now, movement costs energy. You settle again, your breathing steady, your body still. You wait. Not for something to happen, but for time to pass, because that's all there is to do. You open your eyes again, not because you need to, but because staying closed doesn't change anything. The darkness is constant, unchanging. You begin to understand something quietly. Night here isn't restful. It's something you move through, slowly, patiently, enduring each moment as it comes. You glance again toward the faint glow of the fire. Still there, still alive, but weaker. Like everything else, you take another breath, deeper this time, letting your body settle into the rhythm of the night. Because resisting it doesn't help. It only makes it feel longer, and as you sit there, surrounded by silence, darkness stretching endlessly around you, your body balancing cold, hunger, and stillness, you understand something clearly. Winter nights here don't pass. You endure them, until they finally decide to end. You don't notice it immediately. At first, it feels like nothing more than the same cold you've been managing all night, the same heaviness in your body, the same slow stiffness in your muscles. But then, something shifts. Subtle, almost unnoticeable, until it isn't. A slight tightness in your chest, a faint scratch in your throat. You take a breath in, and it feels different. Not painful, but not easy either. A mainstream historical fact is that illness during medieval winters was extremely common, especially respiratory infections like pneumonia and bronchitis, made worse by cold air and constant exposure to indoor smoke. You feel that reality creeping in now. The air you breathe is heavy, not just cold, but thick. You glance toward the fire again, still glowing faintly, still producing warmth, but also smoke. Always smoke. A quirky historical tidbit is that medieval people sometimes believed illness was caused by bad air, known as miasma, rather than germs, so they focused on smells and atmosphere rather than actual infection sources. Sitting here, you can understand that belief, because the air doesn't feel right. You take another breath, slower this time, trying to control it. In, out, steady. But your body feels different now, more sensitive, more aware. Historians still argue whether the main cause of winter illness in medieval homes was cold exposure, poor nutrition, or the constant inhalation of smoke from indoor fires. Right now, it feels like all of them. You shift slightly, your body reacting instinctively, trying to find a position that feels easier to breathe in. You lean forward just a little. Your chest loosens slightly. Not much, but enough to notice. You stay there. Because small improvements matter. You take another breath, then another, each one controlled, measured, because you don't want to waste energy. and you don't want to strain your body further. You pull your clothing closer again, instinctively protecting your chest, your throat places that now feel more exposed than before. You've been managing the cold, but now you're managing your body too. You feel a slight heaviness in your head. Not dizziness, just a quiet weight. As if your body is working harder than it should. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, but to focus, to stay calm. Because panic doesn't help. It never does. You slow your breathing again. In, out, gentle. You listen to the sounds around you. Still quiet, still steady. Nothing has changed outside of you. But inside, something is different. You understand something quietly. Surviving winter isn't just about staying warm, it's about staying well. And that's not guaranteed. You shift again, adjusting your posture slightly, trying to maintain comfort without using too much energy. Balance. Always balance. You glance toward the fire once more. Still there. Still burning. Still helping and harming at the same time. You stay where you are. Because there's nowhere else to go. No better air. No safer place. Just this. You take another slow breath. Steadying yourself, keeping everything controlled. Because that's all you can do. Manage. Adapt. Endure. And as you sit there feeling your body respond to the cold, the smoke, and the long night around you, you understand something clearly. In this world, even staying healthy is a challenge. You sit there for a while longer, managing your breath, keeping your body steady, trying not to let the cold or the heaviness inside you take over. And then, slowly, something shifts again. Not outside, but in your understanding. Because even in this cold, even in this long night, life doesn't stop. A mainstream historical fact is that in medieval times, work continued through winter, especially for peasants. Tasks changed with the season, but daily labor never truly paused. You feel that truth settle in. There's no concept of a day off. No break because it's too cold. Survival itself is work. You shift slightly, your muscles stiff as they respond. Resting too long makes movement harder. Your body tightens, resisting change, but you push through it gently. Because staying still too long has its own cost. A quirky historical tidbit is that during winter months, many medieval households focused on indoor labor repairing tools, spinning wool, mending clothing tasks that could be done in limited light and confined space. You can imagine doing that now, not because you want to, but because you have to. Historians still argue whether winter was seen as a slower season in medieval life, or if it simply replaced outdoor labor with equally demanding indoor work. From where you sit, it doesn't feel slower, it feels constant. You adjust your position again, slowly rising just enough to stretch your legs, careful not to lose too much warmth in the process. Your joints feel stiff, reluctant, but they move, barely. That's enough. You take a breath, steady and controlled, your body shifting from stillness into quiet readiness. Because resting here isn't the same as recovering. It's just pausing. You glance around again, noticing the small details you ignored before. Objects, tools, materials. Everything has a purpose. Everything requires effort. Nothing is wasted. You understand something quietly. Even in the coldest part of winter, there are things that must be done. Clothing must be repaired. Food must be managed. Fire must be maintained. And all of that takes energy. Energy you don't have much of. You sit back down slowly, conserving what you can, but now more aware, more alert, because survival isn't passive. It's active, constant. You bring your hands together again, rubbing them lightly, creating a small amount of warmth through friction. It's not much, but it helps. Everything helps. You take another breath, feeling your body settle back into its controlled rhythm. In, out, slow, steady. You're not resting, you're preparing, because at some point, you'll need to move again. You'll need to act, and your body needs to be ready for that. Even now, even in the middle of the night, you glance toward the fire again, still burning, still fragile, still demanding attention. You know you'll have to tend to it soon. Add fuel. Adjust it. Keep it alive, because if it goes out, everything becomes harder. You lean slightly forward again, your posture still compact, your movements still minimal. Because energy matters more than anything. You close your eyes for a brief moment, not to sleep, but to center yourself. to stay balanced, because losing that balance means losing control. And as you sit there, aware that even in the quietest, coldest moments of winter, effort never truly stops, you understand something clearly. In this world, survival itself is a full-time task. You remain still for a moment longer, your body balanced between rest and readiness, holding on to what little warmth and energy you've managed to preserve. But as your awareness sharpens again, something becomes clearer. Not everyone experiences this night the same way. A mainstream historical fact is that medieval society was deeply divided by class, and winter conditions differed significantly between peasants and nobles. Wealthier households had better built homes, more resources, and access to greater comfort. You can feel that contrast, even without seeing it, because what you're experiencing now, this constant cold, this careful management of heat, food, and energy, is not universal. Somewhere else, someone is warmer. A quirky historical tidbit is that noble households often used heavy tapestries on walls, not just for decoration, but to help insulate rooms and reduce heat loss. You imagine that now, thick fabric covering the cracks you can feel here, blocking the drafts that slip through your walls so easily. Historians still argue whether these measures made a significant difference in actual comfort, or if even the wealthy still endured considerable cold during harsh winters. But compared to this, even a small improvement would feel like luxury. You shift slightly, your body responding to the thought, though nothing around you changes. Your reality remains the same, simple, exposed, limited. You pull your clothing tighter again, instinctively reinforcing your own defenses, because you don't have tapestries. You don't have thick stone walls built to retain heat. You have what's around you, and what's around you is just enough. You glance toward the fire again, noticing how much it matters. For someone with more resources, that fire could be larger, more consistent, better maintained. Here, it's controlled, carefully rationed. You realize something quietly. Comfort in winter isn't just about temperature. It's about access. Access to materials, to space, to options. You have fewer of those, so every decision matters more. You adjust your position again, leaning slightly toward the fire, your body still compact, still conserving. You're used to this now. Not comfortable, but familiar. You take a slow breath, your chest rising gently, your body steady. Because you've adapted, not completely, but enough. You think again about those differences. Warmer rooms, thicker walls, better food, more fuel. It's a different experience of the same season, the same winter, but not the same struggle. You don't feel frustration, not exactly. Because here, this is normal, this is expected. You manage what you have, you endure what comes. That's the pattern. You glance around once more, your eyes adjusting to the dim light, the shapes and shadows now familiar. This space, this night, this cold, it's all part of the same reality. And your role within it is simple: to continue. You bring your hands closer again, rubbing them gently, keeping circulation going, maintaining control. Because small actions matter. They always do. You shift your legs slightly, easing stiffness, careful not to lose too much heat in the process. Balance again. Always balance. You take another breath, slower this time, letting your body settle deeper into its rhythm. Because thinking about differences doesn't change your situation. It only sharpens your awareness of it. And as you sit there, wrapped in limited warmth, aware that others experience this same winter in entirely different ways, you understand something clearly. Cold may be shared, but comfort is not.